Next up, we have Emmerson Resources. ASX code is ERM, and they have projects in New South Wales, but most importantly and most excitingly, up in the Tennant Creek area of the Northern Territory. Joining me today is Rob Bills. He's the Managing Director and CEO, and there's been some exciting discoveries. Oh my goodness, Rob, I'm so happy that you're joining us today, even though you're still behind the Iron Curtain. Over to you to tell us what's going with Emmerson. Let's have a chat about it.
Fantastic, Kerry. Great pleasure to give you an update, particularly, as you say, with these great intersections in Tennant Creek. So let's maybe just dive into it. This opening slide here is actually on the Hermitage project, which we drilled in November and December last year and got some cracker results. So that you can see the rig in the background, completely blind target, so completely covered by sand cover. Now, I guess, Kerry, taking a step back in terms of why you would invest in Emmerson, if we just cover a couple of the dot points there. Look, a commanding land position in Northern Territory in Tennant Creek, 1,700 odd square kilometres, completely surrounded now by a number of majors and juniors, also projects in the Macquarie Arc in New South Wales. We have a good track record of discovery. So we've been in Tennant Creek since 2007. So we've cracked the code, we believe, in terms of finding these things. Hermitage down there, 117 metres at 3.4% copper.
That's
we've got
a cracker.
It is a cracker. Yeah. So as I was talking to you earlier, I think the 16th best copper intersection for 2021 on a global basis, just on copper alone.
Can you just repeat that again, Rob? That was the best intersection globally. Did you?
16th.
No, 16th. 16th.
Yeah.
But 16th globally, not in Australia, ladies and gentlemen, globally.
Yeah. Yep. So a great result. We even edged out Newcrest over in the Paterson province, Havieron. So, and it's got many similarities to that. So, and then we've got Mauritania. So Mauritania was a discovery a couple of years ago by Emmerson. Some cracker results there in the gold oxide zone. You'll see a resource come out on that, Edna Beryl. The other thing about Emmerson is that differentiates Emmerson from other juniors, Kerry, is that we've got a pathway to grow. There's a new strategic alliance and joint venture with TCMG, which includes two joint ventures, an exploration joint venture and a mining joint venture. The mining joint venture is where we get a 6% gold production royalty. So we don't take any risk on moving discoveries into mining and development. They do all of that. In return, we get a 6% gold production royalty. So really, we're well funded and cashed up. If we want to just have a quick look here, Kerry, as I was saying, Tennant Creek, these are the tenements around us. It's an exploration hotspot. Some public domain sort of data have been released by Geoscience Australia and NTGS, which has created this land rush. We're surrounded to the north by Rio Tinto in green. We've been there for a long time, so we believe we've got a core, holding in here.
Rob, why is Tennant Creek such a hot? So you just said it. You said it's a real hot spot, but there's been a rush recently. Why all of a sudden? What's been the catalyst to make it?
Well, I think the part of the thinking has changed geologically, Kerry, to generate this, and obviously with the Rios and the BHPs and the Newcrests in there, there's a realisation, as there was in the Paterson province, that the Greatland Gold's discovery at Havieron and all of these other things, these style of deposits, iron oxide, copper gold, we call them, have taken on a bit of a life of their own, and it's a very underexplored area in Australia. So this domain, non-competitive data that Geoscience Australia has flown has shown that province continues on out to the east, which is why you see all of those tenements. So I think that's what's precipitated, a whole lot of exploration.
And are you happy with your position within that? Because looking at the map, if you're not a geo by nature, if you're just investing, you look at it and go, oh, they look like they've only got a tiny little piece of the pie in there. What would you say to people saying that? Because there's been a big land grab. Are you happy with what you've got?
That tiny little piece of land is 1,700 square kilometres. So, and
well, it's important to put it in context, Rob.
Yeah, look, we are very happy because unlike all of those other tenements to the east, our rocks that host the copper and gold are actually exposed at the surface. As you go east, you get a lot of cover. In fact, up to 300 metres of cover. So you've got to actually drill through this barren stuff to actually find, the mineralised stuff. So we believe we've got the prime piece of the ground.
Okay. And how much cover is where you are?
Look, it varies. Like, that slide I showed you from Hermitage, that had about 60 metres of sand cover, and then it went into the host formation. So not very much.
Okay.
So we talk a little bit about the Hermitage discovery, the discovery team. Obviously, it's a real team effort, and we've been beavering away here in Tennant Creek for quite a while. And employing the local traditional owners and a variety of people. So it's been a great effort for everyone. And this is the result. This is a map of the Hermitage magnetic anomaly in red. And we're going to talk a little bit about Jasper Hills as well. So that's a bigger mag anomaly sitting down there. And as we said, a stunning 117 metres at 3.4%. That stopped in 3 metres at 15 grams gold and 4.2% copper. It stopped not because we ran out of mineralisation, obviously, but because the rig couldn't drill any further. So the obvious thing this season is to go back in there and put a bigger rig, a diamond rig, and continue on that hole. And who knows what's below us. But typically these things are zoned. So when you look at a long section of this is the drill hole Herc 3 here. We drilled down through here. The blue stuff is the iron oxide, mostly magnetite and hematite, and this is the intercept. This is where the hole stopped. So these things are typically zoned, so you typically get copper and gold up the top, and it grades into the primary copper and gold, and it usually goes into just high-grade gold. So we are hoping, we've been drilling through the copper and gold, very high-grade copper and good gold grades, but we're hoping that we actually go into a large gold zone underneath. And I should point out, we've only got, this is a breccia for the technically minded. We don't really know the dimensions of this at all. We've got no drilling out here at all, so we don't really know what the dimensions of this is at all. So the first program this year will be continuation of this drill hole down into the breccia pipe, continue down, and then to step out and try and put some dimensions on this.
Rob, and for those that are not technical, not geos, when you say 117 metres at 3.4% copper, that's a good hit. That's a high hit of copper. What's sort of the average copper grades at the moment?
Look, the average sort of copper grades, we talk about 0.5, 0.5%. 0.5% to 1% is a pretty good hit. 1% copper is a good hit. So you're talking, 3 orders of magnitude. So, a stunning hit. And obviously, grade is king, as you know, Kerry. So if you've got high grade, the value of the thing increases. You don't have to mine as much waste material. Milling costs go down, all sorts of things. And it's very close to the surface. It's kind of like 670 metres below the surface, you hit the mineralisation. So it's very shallow.
So what are you going to be doing as we go into 2022, having hit that spectacular, as you said, number 16 globally? What's the news flow from here in 22?
It will be continuation of this drill hole and a program around it to define how big this breccia pipe is. We've got no idea of the dimensions of this. So that program will start immediately after the wet season, and we'll kick that program off. Hopefully, March, April, somewhere in there.
Great.
Just a little bit on our, diving a little bit more into our land holding here. So now we've vectored in onto the Emmerson tenements, and the blue and the pink are the joint venture tenements with Tennant Consolidated Mining Group, our joint venture partner. The Hermitage and the Jasper Hills area is up here to the north, 100% Emmerson, nothing to do with the joint venture, so 100% owned. So I think the big, precipitors or triggers for a re-rating next year from a joint venture will be, the further announcements on the actual resources. So we announced the Chariot JORC compliant resource back in November, 140 odd thousand ounces at 7.8 grams per tonne. The Mauritania one will come out, in March probably. It's being done by Optero, so they're independent. And then there's some more in that pipeline that will come out. So the way it works is, Kerry, there's an exploration joint venture over the blue and the pink. Once we make a discovery, it ticks over into what we call a mining joint venture. That's when TCMG take over, do the mining studies, do the JORC estimates, do the mining and processing, and we get a 6% gold production royalty.
But just to be clear, for those people out there that are looking at it, once that ticks over, there's no cost for Emmerson. TCMG take all the costs right up until you're mining, basically. And you guys... Right through, Kerry, through the mining, through the processing, through everything. So until the thing's mined out. So basically we collect a 6% gold production royalty, and it's a great royalty. It's if you look at the Franco-Nevada type royalties, they're usually 1%, 1.5%, maybe 2% at best. So 6%, you can do your own math on this. You can start calculating a value from these, JORC resources. Yeah, congratulations, Rob. That's a really great, it's great value for shareholders.
Oh, fantastic. The other thing we should mention is the mill. These are all, at the moment, there's no mill to process them. So, they're all stranded assets. So I think when the mill gets on site, the Nobles Knob Mill, that's our joint venture partner, TCMG. I've bought a mill over in Queensland. They're going to move that to site next year. Obviously, those stranded assets will be stranded no longer, and I think that will create another re-rating.
Yes, a couple of good opportunities there, especially with that.
Maybe we talk. Do you want to talk a little bit about the joint venture on Jasper Hills?
I'd really like to go to Jasper Hill, because I think Jasper Hills, this is really, really interesting. So if we can jump to that, because we've only got about 3 minutes left.
Okay, so here's Hermitage, here's Jasper Hills here. This Jasper Hills area was locked out back in the 80s. ADL drilled some holes into Jasper Hills, and then it got tied up in a native title issue. So we've been negotiating directly, and I'll just pull the slide up, with the MAC traditional owners. I formed a corporation called the MAC Corporation. We've been, they came to us, and they wanted to deal directly with the explorers. We've known them for a very long time. Great guys. As I said, the traditional owners, the custodians of this particular area. And we've done a joint venture with them. One of the first joint ventures ever done directly with the custodians of the land in this area. So, a fantastic relationship. And we're just now jumping through a few more hoops through the Aboriginal Area Protection Authority. They have to make sure that the, obviously sacred sites are protected under this joint venture. So the first phase of drilling will be drilling Jasper Hills. And this is a picture of Jasper Hills here in the foreground, and the traditional owners there in the background.
Sorry, we've got 2 minutes left, 1.5 minutes left. So we're going to just crack on because this, I just want to focus on this just to finish up, if that's okay with you.
Yes.
What was the catalyst? Because Jasper Hills has been locked up since the 80s. This has got high grade material, and you're working really well with these people. Just explain a little bit more about the timeline, you think.
I think the timeline, will hopefully be, we'll get access to this early this year. And there's no, certainty around it, because it's tied up with, negotiations between Aboriginal Area Protection Authority and the Central Land Council. So there's a few hoops we have to jump through. But the really great thing about this one, Kerry, is there's some historical drilling by ADL, which has got very similar mineralisation to Hermitage, high-grade copper, high-grade cobalt, in fact, up to 1% cobalt, and high-grade gold. So we know that for a fact from the historic drilling. it hasn't seen modern exploration. So we will apply modern exploration across this site and then drill. So I think it will be, this and Hermitage will be absolutely fantastic for Emmerson shareholders, because it's, you know, it could be one of the same systems. We don't know yet.
Well, it certainly looks like they're not that far away from each other. Rob, last comment to you, because we have to finish up. We're out of time. What would you say to our shareholders, our investor audience right now, as to why now is a good time?
Now's a great time. Look, we're moving into now out of the wet season into the drilling season. You'll see drilling at Hermitage, hopefully Jasper Hills. You'll see drilling on the joint venture areas, and you'll see those resources, JORC resources, start coming out where you can calculate your 6% gold royalty. So I think it's a fantastic time to get in. It's going to be a cracker year for Emmerson.
He's an excited man, Mr. Rob Bills, and there's lots of information. You'll see him at the end of the day, a couple of hours in the Zoom networking where you can ask lots of questions, but you'll also see him in June when we all get together face-to-face. Rob Bills, thanks so much for joining us at the Virtual Gold Conference.
Fantastic, Kerry. Thanks again.